Welcome to the Women in Industry podcast. My name is Kirsty Davies-Chinnock, and today I am delighted to have Jackie Kelly with me. Jackie is the founder and director of Love Aluminium. Love Aluminium are passionate about aluminium extrusions and the home of UK Profile Components Limited. They are a leading aluminium extrusion supplier, providing bespoke extrusions to customers across the UK and into Europe. Their extensive range of services include aluminium design, dye, extrusions through to fabrication and finishing to fulfil your needs. Any sort of aluminium design can be given to their team, and with the aid of their CAD technology, they can turn these into a reality for you. Welcome, Jackie. Lovely to have you here.
Thank you, Kirsty.
I'm really quite excited about this podcast because you've been in the aluminium industry for well over 30 years. And I always love to meet someone who's got such great experience and longevity in the metals industry. And I think you joined it by accident.
Yeah, but basically, I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to work in an office. I went to the local careers place in Banbury and told them this. I don't really, want to work in an office. And at the time, the government was offering youth training schemes. And so I applied to, there was a local aluminium factory, and I applied to it and got in. And that's it. I'm in aluminium.
And you'd been to college beforehand,
That's right.
and you didn't really enjoy it.
No, I was doing a catering course and yeah, I decided it wasn't really for me. It was, I sort of realised that I think in order to make any money at that, I'd have to move to London. And I was, tender age of 17. It wasn't really what I wanted to do, and work long hours and that kind of. So yeah, I tried it, but it wasn't really for me, I decided.
I think most of us at 17 don't know what we want to do.
No.
Very few people do know. But you shared your catering college with a rather famous chef, I believe.
I did, yes. Gordon Ramsay was in the year above me at school, at college. He lived in Banbury, and yeah, obviously at the time I didn't know, but yeah, I can still visualise him now standing there in his chef's whites, and no idea what he had in store for him.
It's we love restaurants, and I have met Gordon Ramsay at a friend's restaurant. So as well as 30 odd years in the metal industries, we have Gordon in common.
Oh,
Um,
right. Yeah.
so when you started your career in aluminium, what was your sort of first role? You said you were in the office. What were you responsible for? What were you learning?
Yeah, so I was on the youth training scheme, and then after a few months, a position came up at the company for production scheduler. So I was responsible for making sure that the extrusion presses had enough work to keep them going throughout the night shift. So I used to walk around the factory, checking how much work they'd got left, making sure they'd got the right alloys to extrude, that kind of thing. So yeah, that was my first role, inputting some of the data into the old IBM computers, as I remember. Yeah, that was my first role in the company.
And do you think having sort of the time on the factory floor, learning about the alloys, learning about the extrusion machines, learning about how long it took to produce them and then scheduling it, did that sort of start I suppose, your love of aluminium?
I wouldn't say it started then, but obviously it was a very good learning curve. Yes, as you say, learned a lot about the different alloys, what they were for. You learned a lot about the different problems that they can get on the presses and how they resolved them. You learned about the dyes, and that they don't always run correctly. The extrusions don't always run correctly, and how they put that right. So yeah, it was a big company. There was probably about 700 employees. They had 7 extrusion presses at that time in the UK, and there's nobody in the UK now that has that amount of presses. So it was, and they had a remelt site as well on site. So yeah, it was a very good training ground.
And you were then at sort of Alcan for many years.
Yeah, 15
Um,
years, I think it was. Yeah.
yeah, and so you've worked for some large companies. before setting up on your own, which obviously setting up on your own is an incredibly scary but ultimately fulfilling thing to do. Did you have any support when you did it?
Not much. I was still in touch with some of my old Alcan colleagues, so I did have some support when it came to quality issues and things like that. I'm still in touch with one of the guys, he was the quality manager there at the plant for over 30 years. So more than happy to lend a hand, and yeah, various other people, like in the test house, people like that. So when I came across something like a metallurgy sort of issue, which was a little bit out of my remit. Yeah, so I did get support from previous colleagues, which was very helpful.
And when you set up, I imagine it was a bit of time between the, right, okay, my name's Jackie, you know me from X, Y, and Z, and I'm now working on my own. I've got a new business.
Yeah.
How long did it sort of take to sort of get the first orders rolling through and for you to sort of go, I think this is working? Because it obviously has worked.
Yeah, it's worked now. Yeah, it took a little while. I mean, somebody said to me, don't expect to make any profit for several years, kind of thing. So I was like, all right, okay. So I suppose yeah, didn't have massive expectations in the beginning, which was a good thing. But yeah, just started to gradually build it. I can remember the very first order that I got, which was an extrusion for a pond safety system. And it was a grid, it was painted black, so it disappeared in the water. And yeah, that was the very first one. I remember, die number one.
You say you didn't have any great expectations, but you must have had expectations that it would eventually become a success, because otherwise you wouldn't have taken the risk. What was the sort of reason why you just sort of sat there one day, maybe after thinking about it, and just said, I am going to set up on my own?
Yeah, well, I think I was just fed up with the 9 to 5. I was fed up with probably not having the support maybe from the boss I had at the time. I just thought, what can I do where I'm not tied to a certain salary? I'm not tied to, a certain amount per hour that I'm going to earn. Yeah, I mean, I looked into being a driving instructor at one point. Oh no, I don't think I have the patience for that. But and then yeah, it's kind of, well, what do I know? I know aluminium, so after working for an aluminium stockholder, it opened my eyes in so much that I realized you could just buy extrusion in from various companies. I mean, we were dealing with several companies abroad. We could just buy extrusion in and sell it to the UK, maybe do some fabrication to it. I thought, so yeah, that can't be that hard.
And when did you come up with the name Love Aluminium?
Well, it is great, isn't it? And people do say to me,
It's
you know,
fantastic.
so, how's the woman with the best name in the industry? This kind of thing. So yeah, it's great. And I had had a little extrusion made, Love Aluminium. Just sat and drew that one day on my patio, and then had it made. And I was sending that out on Valentine's Day to people with a little rhyme, just as a marketing thing. But yeah, it wasn't me that came up with the original idea. It was somebody that was doing my website suggested it, and yeah, just so glad they did. 'Cause it's been really good, really, really positively accepted.
So you've been running the best named business in the business for a while now. So I mean, it's what, 17 years since you set up Love Aluminium?
Yeah,
And then you sort of had, another 17 or more years working for other aluminium companies.
yeah.
Obviously, you've got the positives for running your own business. Are there any negatives? Do you miss, having a coffee with someone or having multiple people around you?
Yeah, there is that. Yeah, it's having the banter, isn't it? The morning and you have the coffee and everybody chat about their day and everything else. But there's far more positives than negatives. I wouldn't change anything. I'm so glad I did make that leap. Yeah, definitely.
And your role at Love Aluminium, I know from previous conversations that we've had, that you've really set Love Aluminium up as to facilitate the life you want to lead.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yes, like I said, I didn't particularly want to work 9 to 5. I can be flexible if I've got a particular project I've got to get out. I mean, I have been known to work, 11 o'clock at night, that kind of thing, especially if I've been on holiday, especially obviously I have to catch up. So yeah, I mean, it's obviously I know it's important. Obviously I've got to get back to my customers and keep the business running. But at the same time, I don't want to be working all the hours God sends. I really don't, that's not the idea. I value my free time. My hobbies. I like to pursue. At the end of the day, it's life. I want to enjoy life.
I think that's something that the new generation, sort of Gen Z coming through, and the younger millennials, that they don't look at their day job as the be all and end all. They've got a much more well-rounded existence, rather than sort of us Gen X, who for so many years just work was everything.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time you forget that we're actually working to have a life.
Yeah,
You shouldn't live to
yeah.
work.
Yeah.
So I think it's really healthy that you have your business there to facilitate the lifestyle you want.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
obviously valuing your business and your customers and your suppliers.
Yeah.
You mentioned hobbies. What hobbies do you have? What do you like to do when you're not selling extrusion?
Most of all, I love dancing. So I have been known to go out dancing 5 or 6 nights a week. It's a bit of an addiction, really. It's a bit of a problem. It's not a problem. I love it. I mean, at the end of the day, for me, dancing is so good for my mental health, for my fitness, socializing, yeah, and all of the above. It's a cheap night. Just love it. It's does get a bit addictive though.
So I need to ask some questions here. When you say dancing, are you ballroom, tap, modern, jazz, ballet, lyrical,
None of those. So
disco?
it's modern jive is what I do mostly. I've been doing
Oh,
crikey, over 20 years I've been dancing modern jive, but more recently I've moved into blues, which probably not many people know, but it is a style of dancing. It's called blues. It's much slower. It's very much about the musicality, because I love the music. And then more recently, the last few weeks, I've picked up another one called West Coast Swing, which I think is an American kind of dance. It's just so cool. Love it.
see, that sounds absolutely fascinating. And I really think we should do a metals industry version of Dancing with the Stars and have
Yeah,
you do something
definitely.
on
Yeah,
that.
sounds good.
Yeah, I got thrown out of sort of ballroom jive
Oh
classes when I
no.
was a child.
Oh, a
Someone was
child.
bullying
Okay.
my friend, so
Oh, all right.
I got told off for interfering. So, but yeah, I
Oh
mean,
dear.
I get you with the mental health. I danced for up until I was my late 30s.
Yeah.
Predominantly tap, ballet, modern. I used to teach as well,
Oh, okay.
and then retired, and then came out of retirement a few years ago to do Stepping Out, which I love.
Yeah.
It's one of my favourite dance-based plays. If you ever get a chance to see it,
I stepping out.
yeah.
That was another. Now you've mentioned it. That was another thing I did. I did some amateur dramatics for a little while. I just tried it, and we actually did the play Stepping Out, and we had to learn to tap. Yeah, I did it. I
I
played
Who did you play? Can you remember?
Dorothy.
I was Maxie. So, but no, I love that play, and to have the chance to do it, I just, yeah, it's such a great play. Um, so apart from metal and dancing, you obviously have your family life as well.
Yeah.
And I know your son Liam has just joined you as a sales director.
Hmm.
And congratulations, you've recently become a nanny as well.
That's right. Yeah.
Um, so congratulations, Liam.
Thank you.
Um, he's been with you just over a year now, I think.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And how
Yeah.
are you finding being an employer?
Yeah, obviously it has its challenges with him being my son. It's, sort of have to put two different hats on. It's like, I'm the mother or the boss, but generally, yes, he's doing very well. He's good at the marketing side of it. He's been doing a lot of work on LinkedIn. He's very good at writing posts. He doesn't mind sort of writing these funny things, and getting them out in the public domain, which is not really me. I don't feel comfortable doing that. But so that's great. He can step in and do that side of things. Works really well, and he's confident to deal with the customers, the suppliers. So yeah, it seems to be working out well. A few years back, he wouldn't have been interested at all. So it seemed to be the right time.
I think it goes back to when we said, sort of like when we were 17 and didn't know what we wanted to do, and you sort of stumble into it. I think it's people have to be ready to want to do it. Otherwise, it's just not going to work, is it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You mentioned Liam's work on LinkedIn, and I must say some of his posts are absolutely brilliant.
Oh, good, aren't
They are really good. I absolutely love the ones that feature George.
they? I know. I know. George is amazing.
Any LinkedIn post with a dog, I immediately stop scrolling and start reading the post, just to see if it mentions anything that the dog is doing. So you've got Liam sort of looking at the marketing side, and yet you said that's not something you'd be comfortable with. But you're on this podcast and talking to me, and
Yeah,
stepping outside of your comfort zone a
I
bit.
know. Yeah, I should maybe just be a bit more brave, but hey ho, Liam's good at it. He's better at it than me. I'll let him carry on. He enjoys it. I just hear him giggling at his own posts before he's even, while he's writing. Oh dear. That's fine.
Yeah, I make myself laugh as well on occasions. Normally when nobody else does, but So we're filming this and it's going out in July. So we're more than halfway through the year. What are your sort of goals to achieve this year, personally or professionally or both?
Ooh, well, personally, I kind of achieved it. I'm a nana now, so yeah, enjoy the family. Yeah, I'd like to do a bit more traveling. I mean, the idea is with Liam, I can sort of start to take a little bit of a step back, and then, I mean, that's another thing I want to pursue is to travel the world a little bit more. Professionally, well, we're hoping to turn over our first million. We're doing quite well. A little bit quiet at the moment. It's summer, it always goes quiet. So, but yeah, we're getting there. We're going well.
That's a really big milestone to achieve, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And that is an awful lot of aluminium extrusion to hit that number.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
do you plan your sort of goals for the year ahead? Do you have like a 1 year plan, a 3 year plan, a 5 year plan, or do you tend to work on let's do X% better than last year, or how do you sort of strategize what you want to
Yeah,
do?
just generally looking for growth. I'm not great, Kirsty, really at sort of setting certain goals to hit and things like that. I'm a little bit of a fly by the seat of my pants kind of person, but it seems to be working. So that's kind of how I go. But yeah,
Yeah,
obviously we're looking for growth. We do monitor it.
yeah, I think a lot of people do that. The amount of people will go, do you have a 5 year plan? And I go, I've written 2 5 year plans in the last 34 years. The one I wrote just before the 2008 crash, and the second one I wrote just before COVID. So I'm never writing one again.
No. I think just stay positive, just keep going at it, and it seems to have worked for me so far, so I keep going.
And that's it. It's one of those things that you do what's best for you and your business, and there can never be one size fits all. We all need to sort of be true to our own selves while we're doing it. People I've spoken to in previous episodes have talked about their metal or manufacturing mates. You've got such longevity in the industry. Have you got any people that particularly inspired you? You mentioned you obviously still in touch with colleagues from your Alcan days.
Yeah. Well, there was a guy. I went. I joined a small company up in Corby. After the Alcan, 15 years with the Alcan, and I was replacing somebody who was leaving the company to set up his own company, same as me. And yeah, he's been extremely successful. So I suppose, yeah, think, well, yeah, people do it. They can do it. Why not? Um, so yeah, maybe him kind of followed that.
I think sometimes it is just taking that first step, and then 17 years later you look back and go, oh wow. Because there'll be people out there who'll look at you and go, well, Jackie did it, so I can
Yeah,
do it.
and people do. People have said to me, I'll say ex-colleagues, people I used to work with, they said, "Crikey, they, we take your hat off to you," sort of thing. You've done something, that we all wanted to do, but we never had the guts to do it. So that's nice to hear. I think,
It
yeah,
is. And
just
we look at life, we look at families, we look at children, we look at mortgages. There's never a right time to do it. You've just sort of,
no, yeah,
and if
mine
someone
wasn't. I
said
mean,
to you,
I was on my own, and it was a case of just put the mortgage on hold, and that was it. Put Give in my resignation. I lost my company car. That was it. Sat at my kitchen table, and here I am, 17 years later. It's still going. So it's
if
worked
someone
out.
said to you, how do I do it? Do I do it? You know, what would you say is the best way just to sort of like grab the ball by the horns and do it, or think about it?
Just do it.
What
That's what I did. I didn't really particularly plan. It was like I say, just put the mortgage on hold at the time and just went for it. Really, I think if you want it badly enough, you've got to want it badly enough. Um, yeah, just go for it. But yeah, you've got to be sure it's what you really want to do. You've got to enjoy it enough. I guess, yeah, have the background there, have the bit of support that I had. Um, I don't think I mentioned. I mean, there was a one of my suppliers at the time, the company that I was working for at the time. I mentioned to him in confidence what I was thinking of doing, and they promised me they would support me, and they did right from day one. They gave me credit, which obviously was a massive help.
cash is always king, so being able to do
Yeah,
that straight away is
yeah,
it is huge.
yeah.
You obviously have been a woman in the aluminium extrusion industry for well over 30 years. Are you seeing more women coming into the industry now compared to when you started?
Oh, in the in not really in a senior role so much. No, I mean, there's still plenty of women in that sort of doing the customer service roles, and there's some absolutely excellent customer service administrating people I deal with, but not many people setting up their own company, not that I'm aware of. No. So yeah, it is still quite male dominated. That's what I feel.
And if you were talking to a young woman who was looking to start out in the aluminium extrusion industry, maybe start at a junior level and work her way up, what advice would you give her?
Uh, just be brave. Just strive for what it is that you really want. Just go for it. You've got to. You've got to be careful, obviously, like we were saying about the cash flow. You've got to be careful with companies, make sure you check them properly because, I could have very easily gone into a liquidation. I suppose, somebody could have just taken me for a lot of money, that kind of thing. You've got to watch the money. But apart from that, yeah, just I think if you want it badly enough, just go for it. Just do it. I think it can
I
be
think
easier for women dealing with a lot of men. I think we still, it might sound a bit sexist, but I think we still have got a bit of an advantage.
if there are 100 aluminium extrusion owners in a room and 99 of them are Dave and there's only one Jackie,
Absolutely, yeah,
you're going to
yeah,
be well remembered.
yeah,
I think one of the things that I've always enjoyed about the metals industry is the just the huge amount of variety, even in one company,
yeah,
with the different products that you do and the different areas that they go in. You mentioned earlier about your first order being for the pond safety
yeah,
cover.
yes.
What other notable areas or products have been made with the extrusion that you've sold that stand out to you?
Yeah, there's so many. That's why it stays interesting, I think, because it just goes into so many different industries. I mean, we do one now, and I know it goes into an Aston Martin. So I was quite proud of that one because the quality standards are obviously extremely high. So it's an extrusion. There's lots of fabrication done to it, and it's anodized, and yeah, it's just very high quality. So we haven't had one reject, and we still
So
do it. We're
James
still doing
Bond is one of your customers then?
them. Kind of, yeah.
And the last question I always ask people, Jackie, is what's the best advice you've ever received?
Well, I think it was what I was saying earlier, really, about the don't expect to make a profit too early. So I didn't have huge expectations, and then just sort of thought, oh, I can't do this. It's not working. Just sort of kept on going. Thought if I just keep going, it'll happen. It'll happen.
Manage
So
your
yeah,
expectations and look ahead to the future.
yeah,
It's yeah, I mean, it'd be lovely for everyone to be an overnight success, but sometimes it takes a few years. Thank you so much, Jackie. It's been
yeah.
absolutely lovely to talk to you. I do appreciate you coming on the podcast.
You're very welcome. Thank you, Kirsty.